Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today, again, because it's kind of a slow news day, I wanted to talk about kind of a broad subject this time around. And I mentioned it a little bit in my previous video, but it's the idea of whether a movie is entertainment or art. And it's a debate that's gone on for a very long time, since it is the entertainment industry, not the art gala. Um, and in Hollywood, it fluctuates back and forth because you can tell which films have had certain touches and which haven't. But a lot of people use the art defense for film to defend films, like saying, "Oh, it's the artistic image of the director, or this or that," and sometimes it's literally just calling to bullshit. And I think it's good to kind of at least give some of my objective thoughts on what a film really is in terms of where it lies in a medium. Um, and we can look at a few other different films too, just for examples and stuff like that. Like what you would consider something like film art. You would probably consider something, Scorsese's work, like Goodfellas. You look at stuff like Spielberg's early films, stuff like Jaws, or black and white movies like Casablanca or Citizen Kane and things like that. You can say that those are people always say these are art. These are the epitome of what film can be. Because Citizen Kane and Casablanca and a lot of those other films are usually up within the top 50 to top 100 films that have ever been made. And their argument for that, for it being art, is that it's artistic. It's so well made, it has become art. And we can say that about other things too. You can buy a stand-up lamp from Walmart, but then you could go to a craftsman and you can get something that's very intricate made, and it looks like a piece of art. If you do anything, I shouldn't say everything, but most things, if you can do it to a certain level and add some amount of creativity, you can turn it into art. But there is a line where art diverges. And that's true in film too, to some extent, although it's not really easy. It's not easily measured, but we can very clearly kind of define certain things by what they are. So if you want to define something like Casablanca as a work of art, you would look on the other side and say, okay, the Transformers movies, they're not really art; they're just movies, and we categorize more of those as just plain entertainment. Something that's meant to entertain. It doesn't have to be high quality. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to have good objective things in it. It just has to exist, and it has to make people pay money to see it, pay large amounts of money to see it. And again, even those artsier films had that same draw as well, but it's different for that, considering that certain things are tailored in certain ways. Now, when I watch a film, as somebody who, if I'm watching it just on my own, in my house, just enjoying a movie, I don't view it as art. Uh, at least not until after I've seen it. It's kind of one of those things when you're watching it happen. It's like somebody paint. If you're viewing it as art, it's like Picasso painting the Mona Lisa in a way. It's like, okay, first it starts out as some lines, and then by the end of it, it's actually a legitimate piece of art. Films are a lot like that, where you have to watch them the whole way through, because you could see films. There are some films, they just die in the third act, or they have a slow second act, or this or that. The entire thing is a complete piece of art. So I really don't even if I've seen the film before, I don't say, there are things I can point out like, oh, that scene is really fun, or oh, that's really great. But after you finish the movie, that's when it really becomes a piece of art in your mind, if you're thinking that way. But when I'm watching a movie, I want to be entertained first and foremost. I don't want to be drawn into this film in some way, whether it's, even if it's horribly bad, or something that's I shouldn't say horribly, amusingly bad. Something of that nature. And when you're watching something like that and you get drawn in, it's entertaining, but it's not very well done, which means it's not technically, or not technically, but since it's a broad term and it does nothing to do with technicalities. But the idea of art, it doesn't fall into that because it's not very well made, even though it is extremely entertaining. The Room is a very good example of this. A movie that a lot of people love to watch because it's so goddamn terrible, and it's not considered a piece of art because it's so goddamn terrible. But it is a great piece of entertainment. I think that's what I look for in movies that I enjoy watching, is this idea of it should be entertainment first and art second. If entertainment becomes art, that is the ideal outcome for that. You ultimately, when you make if somebody makes a film, they ultimately want it to be seen as an artistic triumph. Again, it's like the painter painting his next painting, or it's that kind of an idea. So when even if a film comes out and it's shit, the director has some amount of creativity behind it, assuming they didn't just do it for cash and there was no thought or care or anything put behind the film, or they were given an abysmal. Well, even if you get an abysmal budget, you can still do some things. There's a lot of tricks to do, especially back in the old days in the '70s and the '80s, and the '60s and stuff when they were making a lot of these lower budgeted films. But that's how I always view a film: is it should be entertainment first. It should entertain you, and then by the end of it, if it has become a piece of art, then you should consider it as that. But the I don't like the argument that people make that all film is art. Not all film is art. Some film is shit. And some art is shit too. You could make that case, but even if you are, ultimately I take it as entertainment first, and I think that's the right way to go about it, because I am entertained by a ton of horrible bad movies. If you even though there's a lot of good ones in there, if you look at my movie spotlight playlist, then you'll see on pretty much a lot of those episodes, at least half of them are crappy B horror movies. Even though for horror fans they're beloved, and I love them. Obviously, I wouldn't put them on any of those mini episodes if I didn't love them. But objectively, a lot of them aren't good. I don't think Chud is necessarily a very good film. It's run on a small budget, and the creature effects are really good, and I love Daniel Stern in the film. But again, there's so much wrong with it that you can't consider it art. And again, it's that kind of an idea that the ultimate purpose of a film is to entertain. It's to make people feel how you want them to feel, either to suspensefully drawn into the story, or laughing hysterically, or screaming in terror. If your film accomplishes what it wanted to accomplish and it does it in such a great way, then it becomes art. And when you hold a film to that standard, it should be a great film. I don't want to hear about artistic integrity involving Sonic the fucking Hedgehog. That is a stupid argument to make. And the creative vision and all that stuff. Look, as much as I hate the idea of it, I think Hollywood needs to take a step back from the overly emotional investments that they have when it comes to some of these films. Because if you take a step back and you take a bit more of a reserved approach, I'm not saying a cold approach, but a more business-like approach to these films, then you can treat them better. It doesn't feel like a blow to your pride when somebody says you made a shit film. It's like, okay, I need to do better. It's kind of like when you flunk a test in school and then you go back and you study and you get a passing grade the next time. You have to learn from your mistakes. And again, that's kind of something that Hollywood has used as a shield for a very long time, is artistic vision is shielding the idea of failure. And people always view failure as a bad thing, and inherently it is. But it's something that people can learn very much from. If you look at the early work of a director versus the later work of a director, and by the way, you can see this in I don't know why this entire thing became an advertisement for my channel, but if you go to my director commentaries, you will see that there are several of them, and I go through their filmographies and show how they grow and progress as directors. And I'm sorry I haven't updated that list in a while. But again, it's like the artist going through phases, and with great directors, you can see that. With mediocre directors, again, you don't see it because either they're not good enough to portray it in a form in film, or they're doing it for money and they don't really care and their soul isn't in it. Again, it goes back to that idea of separating business from artistic vision or art. Um, and it basically all comes back to that central point. And I got to reiterate that, when it comes to entertainment, I think you should be entertained first, and you should be placing certain things on pedestals second. And it's not an argument of what's artistic vision and what's not. It's an argument of, all right, are you bullshitting me, or are you legitimately serious that this is an artistic vision? And again, Hollywood likes to hide behind that line, but it's just kind of something that I've noticed over a long time, and it's been a constant shield for directors that are not very good to not acknowledge their mistakes. And it's a frustrating thing, because there are movies that are legitimate art, and there are movies that are just legitimately entertaining, and to categorize them in such a way is not necessarily pertinent, I guess is the right word to use. But those are my thoughts on kind of where we judge movies in terms of entertainment or an art form. And I'd like to know what you think. Do you think movies are just pure entertainment, or do you think that they are, or art, or a combination of the two? And do you agree with the idea that artistic vision should be heralded above most things? Put your thoughts in the comments below. Again, I like to read them. I like to know what you're thinking. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?